Okay guys, what's going on? Welcome to the showroom here at Porter. We thought we would take a break from our fake brick wall and move into our real pallet wall here in the showroom. We've got some cool guitars behind, but we're not talking about those guitars today. We're talking about something very interesting in the gear industry, which was the Walrus audio pedal line leak saga situation that happened this week. And I thought we would take it from a couple different perspectives and angles. It was really interesting to seeing that like posted on Reddit, then it got to the gear page, and that's kind of where I found it. I was just on the gear page and saw the photo. But we're talking about this kind of the leak or whatever, and like there's all sorts of thoughts on the leak, but maybe when I was like showing it to you, what was your first reaction to the pedals?
So pedals, this like budget line of pedals, and I think it's just kind of like a tremendous like. I think the first thing I said is, "Oh, somebody got fired," you know. So
right.
Somebody didn't catch something along the way, like, "Oh, this box is heavier than it needs to be," or you know. And then I think it was even the next day we were talking about like, you know, to have that seamless like product launch where it's like, okay, it's out, all the videos are out, everybody, you know, all the stores have got them, you know, that takes a lot of work going into that. And, you know, to us, it seems like an overnight release, but these manufacturers they're kind of working, I think months at a time to like be able to have this seamless launch. So definitely the cat got let out of the bag. Someone spilled the beans, I guess.
Man, and so apparently this customer got a fully loaded pedal board with all these budget budget pedals on there, and so much in the mind of pickups. But I'm talking pedals today. But this customer got it and then instantly went to Reddit and posted it. And so we're going to actually take this from a couple different perspectives. One, we just want to say right up front, we like love Walrus. We respect them as a company. We actually have a Walrus pedal here that we're going to be demoing on our pickups and pedals platform. So this is kind of just a general like, what do you think about the situation? What would you do if you received it? So we're actually going to take this from a couple different angles, not only our perspective, but maybe Walrus's perspective. Again, we're not speaking for them. We're wondering what we would do in that situation, or what you would do as the actual guy who received the pedal. So let's start from the manufacturer's perspective. You were talking mostly about this planned release. You know, every pedal company seems to have this perfectly timed release where all of a sudden we have a new pedal and then the dealers launch it live on their site. 18 videos come out of the pedal and it's available for purchase. A really, really cool timed, planned out kind of launch and release, and you see that and you're like, wow, that's really impressive. So I think from their perspective, probably if this was like you were in charge, what would you think about like, oh, this gets out, and then how do you, like, you probably have to have an emergency meeting in your shop or something like that.
Yeah. And it's just like, can you imagine being the guy, you know, you're just flipping through like your feeds or whatever because you need to know what's going on, and then you're like, hey, those look like the pedals that we're about to release.
That no one knows about, and they're out,
So then maybe you're just trying to figure out how it happened, but then maybe also at this point, you know, I guess it depends on the kind of person that you are too, and you're kind of like, well, I can get all stressed about this, but it's like, it's out there, and this is getting a lot of PR now, so it's like maybe this is a silver lining, but it's got to definitely kind of like, your jaw's got to hit the floor a little bit, I think, because, you know, I mean, you plan for things a certain way, but stuff always can, you know, get a curveball thrown at it, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm impressed that for the amount of pedal releases and the amount of pedal companies that seem to, like, not everyone follows this formula, but a lot of people have like you know, we're going down this path and we're going to do this really targeted, coordinated release in the day of the internet, in the day of like all that kind of stuff. I mean, people find information really, really quickly, and it spreads really quickly. But for the most part, a lot of companies have been able to pull this off, and they've got trusted, you know, demo guys that are not going to go and accidentally push publish on their video too early. And so I imagine it's very scripted. I imagine it's very again, thoughtful, planned out, and I don't know if this was supposed to be like a NAMM release, a NAMM time release. I don't know if Walrus is going to NAMM. I know a lot of companies are not going to NAMM this year, so maybe this was kind of the anti-NAMM thing where we're going to release something at NAMM but not be at NAMM, and we don't really need NAMM. I think that's kind of been the vibe that I've gotten from a lot of our peers in the pedal industry as well. But I think they handled it really well. I mean, you mentioned that, like, I think they kind of took it in stride, as from what I could see. One of their owners was saying, you know, yeah, it's out, cat's out of the bag. We're rolling with it, kind of thing. But again, that maybe could kill some of the momentum, right? Because you're ready to launch this and you're ready for people to be able to buy it, and now maybe they can't buy it because the units aren't shipped to the dealers yet. The videos aren't made yet. You know, like I know we've talked with our friend Mike at Pedal of the Day, and he's talked about coordinated releases before where he's had to go and schedule it and get it done and edited and ready to just hit live. And that's a lot of, you know, stress on his plate sometimes too, where it's like, oh, this video's coming out and the manufacturer's like, we need it done on this date. So I wonder from the manufacturer's perspective how they're handling that right now.
Yeah.
You know, what they're doing, because they probably at least have to reformulate some sort of plans.
Yeah.
But maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it's just that kind of thing where, you know, you just kind of never hope for these things to happen. But it's like I was saying, or telling to Brian, it's like they're a big company and they've released so many pedals and successful releases, and eventually, like, the likelihood of doing releases, like, eventually something weird's going to happen with one of them, you know. And but it's like you said, I think they took it in stride and they're regrouping, and you know now everybody is kind of like curious to see what these pedals are about. You know, even I can see someone not knowing anything what's going on with the situation, but hearing about that, or like hearing about the leak, you're kind of like, oh,
they want to know maybe before they weren't so interested. And I think because it's such a major leak, it's less like one single pedal. It's literally a whole line of pedals. It's a whole like massive surprise. So I feel like it is a pretty big deal, right? In terms of the quantity of pedals. I don't know how many were on there. You can see in the photo that we posted. A lot of pedals, a lot of really cool pedals. I'm excited about them. I'm curious about them. As someone who has dabbled in Walrus stuff from time to time, I'm curious about what they are and what they do, and I think they kind of have a cool retro look. I mean, it's like the 80s is coming back in so many different ways in the chorus pedals and kind of like flanger and things like that. And it's like they kind of have this whole 80s vibe to them, which I think is great. All right, so the next part of this perspective, we had to actually cut this part out because the mail guy showed up. But the next part of this perspective is from the guy that receives the pedal board. So it was posted on Reddit. You won't believe what I just got, you know, something of the lines. Again, we don't know all the ins and outs of the situation. Like there was people talking about the guy that doesn't want to send it back. I don't know if that's true or not, so I'm not going to just assume that on the video here. But so you get the box of, you order a pedal board, and it was some major manufacturer that sent it. We don't know who it was. Maybe you know, you can put it in the comments. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who it was that sent it, but it just created this crazy situation that we're talking about. But imagine being the guy, right? Imagine being this guy that gets the box of pedals, and you're just buying a pedal board probably, right? And it shows up, and you have this whole line of like, what the heck is this? You know, maybe like, what would you do in that situation? Like, I mean, you don't know until it actually maybe happened, but could you imagine like being the guy that gets gets that, right? You receive this package, and all of a sudden you have this like top secret like information. Like, I don't know, what would you do?
I mean, first I would like check my order summary, make sure I didn't like accidentally order all of this
check your
stuff.
credit card statement and be like, $4,000.
How much did I spend? I'm gonna have to have a conversation later. But you know, after that, I mean, I guess I would just check and see, you know, reach out to whoever I got it from and like, hey, this might have been a mistake. You know, but there's definitely an aspect of like, oh, this isn't right. Like, you know, I got to kind of take to the head to the computer and get to the bottom of this. And you know, I think like, you know, it's like you were saying, like, as much as we would all like to say like, oh, we wouldn't, you know, like leak it, or, you know, it's like we all have that best friend that'd be like, whoa, I ordered this board, check it out and look at what showed up, you know. And you
like, even if you texted, even if you texted the photo to me, like, you don't believe that, like, you don't know what I'm gonna do with that information. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that stuff, I think all of that stuff happens like in a blink of an eye, and then you realize like, oh, maybe I like sent this picture when I shouldn't have sent this picture. And then also it kind of like, you know, Reddit is a valuable resource. There's a lot of people that go there and for any sort of like subject matter, you know, so it makes sense that like if someone has like a wiring issue, that I always see like help with my wiring on Reddit.
Me, I broke my guitar.
So it's like I could see his like train of thought, like, is this right? Or like, look at what happened, or, you
Mm-hmm.
know, because there's, yeah, so many different things that could have happened there. And maybe not even thinking of like, oh, this is going to, you know, kind of like break the internet or the gear
Yeah.
community of the internet a little bit.
Right, right.
So it's just interesting, but yeah, I don't know.
Man, and you like to think like, oh yeah, I would totally not share it with anyone. And I think from a manufacturer's standpoint, if I got it and figured out, oh my gosh, this is one of like Walrus's released, again, respect them, and I would contact them, of course, and say, hey, like, I don't think this was supposed to come to me. What happened? It would be weird, especially if you really wanted that pedal board, but it was like loaded with other pedals and Velcroed and perfectly wired and power supply. You're like, well, this is not what I needed. I mean, if you're just thinking strictly of a need as a guitar player, I mean, there was rumors about, you know, the guy's like, oh, I'm not going to send it back. I don't know. Again, I don't know if any of that stuff is true or not. But once it gets in, like you're saying, once it gets into the forum worlds, it can take on a life of its own. Like people were arguing about the knobs. People were arguing about the look, and it's like, man, this is just like not even supposed to be out in the wild. Like, save that stuff for later. But now it's like in our faces, and we kind of have to deal with it as guitar players. And so, kind of shifting this last bit to our perspective, kind of this is our take from the situation afar. Again, we're not like super tight with the Walrus guys, but we know them and we respect their company. I'm always amazed that they can pull off these releases. I know we talked about that before, where it's like a perfectly coordinated. You know, there's always one snitch somewhere in the chain sometimes when you're releasing something, and we just don't release stuff that way. If you followed us, you know, we just don't have these big giant planned releases, other than, you know, a little bit of a special thing with our pedal, our GK drive. But you know, with pickup sets, we kind of put them out there and say, here's what they are, and we continue to develop them and promote them, and maybe that's something we could do better at. But I don't think it has the same kind of impact as a big pedal release, because pickups are just a lot more of an intimate product, and you've got to put them in. So
Yeah.
I think from my perspective, I see that being just quite a bit different. Like, I mean, it couldn't be two more different products, and how it's released. I respect the heck out of them for being able to pull that off, and I think in this day and age, to be able to coordinate that many guitar players in one direction is a feat in its own. Like, it should be like applauded to get like that many people to follow in line with something that you want to do. But Ben, I do feel for them. I do feel for that situation. Like, many times we've been put in situations where we have to deal with something maybe earlier than we want to, or we have to make a decision to like address a situation that comes up. I mean, it's just small business. It happens. So I don't envy the internal conversations that they probably had to have. That, you know, what do we do now? Do we still stick to the whatever the date was, say mid-April or something? Do we stick to that date and then just kind of pretend like this is just here? Because like you said, it could be some hype is being built up and other stuff like that. So I don't know. We were talking a little bit yesterday, maybe if you can remember that conversation, a little bit of like kind of the industry has changed a lot and how products are released. Do you remember kind of a little bit where we were going there?
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's so, there is like that kind of like anti-NAMM thing kind of thing, and it's just like there's so, you know, it got to the point where it's like, oh, the NAMM show, it's like all of these releases are coming out around this time, and it kind of got into that. It's like that was the rhythm and the track that we all ran, and now within the events of the last few years, like the NAMM show has definitely had to pivot, and a lot of other companies have had to pivot as well, and it's like, well, maybe we're not hinged on that anymore, and we just have to get a little bit creative with these like releases. And it really, like, this just goes to show like the power of the internet and how things quickly can spread, and just how much like influence that can kind of have, right? And you think of these big companies, but they're still kind of at the mercy of the waves of the media and the social media, and just like that whole thing with the big wave that it is.
Yeah,
so
yeah, and sometimes it's like you got to play the game sometimes, and I don't necessarily like that, if I'm really honest. Of okay, I've got to do it this way, and I've got to do it this way. And some of these companies, I think Walrus is very innovative in their designs and what their pedals do, and they're always trying to like push the limits and stuff like that. But it is man, yeah, from a manufacturer's perspective, you just kind of feel for feel for those dynamics that are honestly out of your control. Like it probably a very honest mistake by whatever retailer sent that board, but then it just creates like, you're sitting here thinking, okay, we've got 2.5 weeks to get these guys going, make sure their demos are ready, make sure the pedals are shipped to the retailers, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, now we have to, it's just kind of like someone drops a bomb on your shop and you have to kind of like clean up a little bit. So anyways, we'd love to know what you guys think about that. We just thought we'd turn the camera on and just kind of share a little bit of a couple of the different angles. Again, we don't know the full story, and there's a lot of stuff. Like, this is the danger, I think, of the forums, is like, you don't know the full story. I mean, there was even stuff about, oh, was this a planned leak, and this is something, just a marketing ploy. I don't think so, but that was a rumor that was floated out there. Again, that doesn't seem like something that Walrus would do, but it's just one of those things where again, stuff takes a life of its own, and even if someone says that once on a forum, people could take that and believe it and think, oh my gosh, yeah, they're totally like pulling a fast one on all of us in the industry. And again, I don't think that's the case, but I'd love to hear your take on this situation, what you think of those pedals and kind of this whole situation. Really, for me, it was just trying to think of it from everyone's perspective. Again, I can't say with 100% certainty I would just keep my lips sealed and get the pedal box. I mean, the type of person that gets it could really determine if we were even talking about this. You know?
Totally.
Not assassinating the character of the guy that got it, but if he was just like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on. This is a major release. This could really hurt or not help if I post this. And then, he could have contacted Walrus, and they'd be like, dude, like, thank you for keeping it secret. Keep the pedal board. Merry Christmas or something. You know what I mean? Like, and that would be worth them doing that and not having to deal with this hassle. So anyways, a lot of stuff to this, a lot of layers. Excited for Walrus and their release. Again, mutually just respect these different companies that are doing what we're doing. And yeah, I would love to hear your comments down below. Don't forget to subscribe to our other videos here. We are Porter Pickups. If you're just finding us because of this situation, that's great. Welcome to our channel. We have a lot of other guitar videos. Marco and I kind of talk about new releases. We talk about different gear topics. We play guitar. We talk about new pickups. We've got some really cool stuff coming up for you on the channel. So if you're not subscribed to the Porter Pickups channel, please do that. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming for you. Thanks for listening, guys.
See you guys.